Alrighty, welcome back to Shock and Schlock. I'm your host, Josh Gillis, and did you really think I was going to leave you with a poorly lit Q&A video with zero appeal of any kind? No, I'm not doing a review. Today, I'm here with something different for the channel. I've never done a series review, really, like over a longer series at least, and this one is a special one. It's a show that I watched quite a bit. Growing up, I never really watched in order and never really grasped the importance of it, and I really only watched reruns as a young teenager. But that is, of course, Moral Oral, which was a show on Adult Swim, aired from 2005 to 2008. If you don't know, it's a series created by Dino Stamatopoulos. I believe that is how you pronounce it. I think he's a writer on Community as well. I could be wrong. I know he's has something to do with Community, but anyway, he made this black comedy claymation series. It lasted 3 seasons, I believe, 43 episodes, and then a prequel episode called Before Oral. I'm not going to go through each episode individually. Rather, I'm going to talk about the themes presented in this, general ideas, and then some standout moments of the show for me. So, why review Moral Oral? I feel like now, in the modern climate, I feel like the concept of a more serious, sad, adult-oriented cartoon is much more popular than it used to be. Or BoJack Horseman definitely is one of the ones sort of helped popularize it in my eyes, at least. But Moral Oral did that years prior, and it got canceled way too early, but it since became a cult classic. So it's something that I've wanted to sit down and do a full watch of for a long time. Started it last year when my grandmother was in hospice, so obviously I took some time away from that. But came back, rewatched those episodes, finished the show, and it is very special. So if you don't know what it is, it's about this young man named Oral Puppington, his father Clay, his mother, God, I can't believe I forgot her name, Balzan. Blaberta. Yeah. Want to make sure I wasn't saying Roberta when it was that. I was trying to make sure. But yeah, Bloberta. Oh, everybody has a clay or puppet sort of themed name. His younger brother Shapey, who is always, getting into trouble because he's mentally not all the way there, presumably. And Oral is very religious. He's a young Protestant. He's very naive, and he sort of lives in this town of Morrilton, which is a Midwest town that's very religious, and sort of his misadventures in that. At least that's what it starts out as. We get, in the early seasons, it's this Oral being naive, having to deal with his alcoholic father, his, mom who's very lethargic, depressed, and the townspeople who are all fairly corrupt, and Oral misunderstanding the teachings of the Bible, taking things far too literally, and what have you. So, Season 1 and most of Season 2 are not too out of the ordinary for a show like this. They're, they poke fun at religion, the religious satire, but they're more lighthearted for the most part, with Oral resurrecting zombies because he misunderstands the Bible. And there is a very infamous episode called God's Chef where Oral, you can look that one up yourself. It's considered the worst in the series. I found it funny, but just Oral misunderstands everything. He gets into trouble. That's it. But during the series, even during seasons 1 and 2, we get this sort of backing, almost depressive, melancholic quality about a lot of it. Oral's father Clay has a romantic interest in, what's worth noting, male romantic interest in the school's gym teacher. We'll get more into that. This is going to have spoilers, by the way. It's a 16-year-old show, though, but you should watch it. But if you don't want that spoiled, to skip this video, it's fine. And it's very sad. He's stuck with, Oral, his family. He doesn't like them, and pretty much every episode ends with Oral getting, you know, beat by his father in his study because he misunderstood something. But Clay himself is very corrupt. He's an alcoholic and is very self-centered and awful for the most part. Every character in this is very flawed. Oral is sort of like the central like beam of light in this. He's naive, but he's a fundamentally, good person. He just has to deal with a lot of this. In season 1 and 2, we get this. We get a little bit of a backdrop of some sadder stuff. With that, there's a lot of like repressed sexuality and the stereotypes. There's a lot of like religious stereotypes in this, and like the Oral befriends this woman named Stephanie, who is a sex shop worker, who is like one of the only good people in the town that's actually righteous, and everybody sort of uses religion to their own good, especially the reverend of the town, who is always very self-centered. He's very sexually repressed. He also goes out and has relations with prostitutes and such, but that's the sort of characters we get in this. But as season 2 goes on, the characters got a lot deeper, which is something that it really draws you in. There are more stories focused on individual characters, like the aforementioned Reverend. God, I'm so bad with names sometimes. Reverend Putty, who you find out that we'll get that in season 3. But season 1 and 2, not super out of the ordinary. That is until we get to the final episode of season 2. Well, it's a 2-part episode. Clay takes Oral hunting, and it is one of the most jarring tone shifts of any show that I've ever seen. But it works. Like, the little seeds of these people are bad people, but like the not so funny part of that, like when the jokes are sort of taken away, like who are these people, is like fundamentally, and it gets really dark. Oral goes hunting with his father. He doesn't want to shoot any animals, and Clay progressively gets more intoxicated, and it's not shown in the typical like funny way where he's like, oh, he's an alcoholic and he's always drinking and all this stuff. It's like very serious that he's handling weapons when he's drunk. There's not like funny music in this one. Oral's getting worried, and it eventually leads to Clay accidentally shooting Oral in the leg and then blaming it on Oral for getting there, and Oral tells Clay that he hates him, and so begins what makes Mortal Oral special, which is season 3. Season 3 of Mortal Oral, a lot of it is either before or after the hunting incident. A lot of it is shown like in that way, and we are shown much more serious topics that are discussed in this. We get there is an entire episode about side characters where we see one of the teachers in the school was sexually assaulted by the pedophile ice cream man that was sort of a joke character in the series, but does get rather dark at times, obviously, with his character. And she is, left with a child because of this, which she performs a home abortion in this very religious town. And she wants to, she still like fantasizes about what happened because she was so sexually repressed and that he made her feel happy. It's very grim and rough and disturbing and sad, and that's just 1/3 of that. We also get Mrs. Censordoll. She's like one of the old women in the town. She hates everything that's not religious, and she still tries to. She uses religion as a means of control, and she's in it, and she sort of like is plotting something against the town. And we get the nurse, who is mentally ill, and she's sitting at home. She is seen in the series very frequently as like a sex object for a lot of the people. And this episode, that sort of comes to a head, like how it affects her mentally. She has made a family of like teddy bears for herself, and treats them and talks to them like family. and she talks about how they don't just see her as an object, and there's a part where she's on the ground and one of the teddy bears falls on her back, and she has a breakdown because it's like she's being assaulted by them too, and it is very rough. And that is just one episode. There's an episode in this called Numb, which is one of my favorite episodes as well, and we sort of get like a background on the relationship between Clay and Oral's mother, Blaberta. And Oral asks her at one point, like, what she sees in his father, or why she is with him, of all people. And she says, why not? And it sort of shows this, like, background. And she's with him because she saw that Clay needed, like, somebody to take care of him, and that's what she goes there. They get married too fast. Her friends were getting married. She just wanted somebody to be with because she's lonely. And yeah, it's just very depressing. And this entire season, like, we get a POV of Clay walking up the stairs when he's drinking, and he overhears his mother talking about Oral's mother talking about this. And Oral asks her as well why she's with him, because when he's drunk, he turns into a bad person. She says that's not a bad person, that's just who he is. Underneath it all, he's just showing himself. Very hard-hitting line. Oral, in one point, I mean, there's still jokes in this. Oral, like, tries to see what's after death a couple of times because he gets struck by lightning, and he dies for a minute and sees what's after death, and people in the town are wanting to ask him what it is, and Oral's dad beats him because he doesn't want him to say what he saw, because he wants people to have this, like, fictionalized image of what it is. And Clay's is the town's mayor, we learned in this season as well, so he's trying to keep these people under wraps while also being an alcoholic, beating his kid, everybody hates him. It's just a lot going on with that. And throughout this, we see more of Clay's, like, cheating on his wife, and losing control on his life. Everybody in this sort of starts slipping away, mentally, and a lot of the times physically deteriorating over this. But we get some real bright moments in this season as well, which would be especially Reverend Putty, we learn, is Stephanie's father, and he sort of reconnects with her, and doesn't reconnect. He finds out she's his daughter, but they connect together a little bit, and it's a sweet moment. But this season is much less funny. It's much more focused on actual issues, and we see, like, these cartoon characters have, like, these lives away from this and who they are as people. It's like the way that they go is much more of a drama than a comedy in this season. It's very tragic as well. We sort of see Oral just trying to really find his way, because everything that he's seen has been challenged, like seeing his father as a bad person, all this stuff. And you think that Oral's going to grow up to be screwed up. And the final episode finally rolls around, and Oral has to, like, honor his father, and he's trying to find somebody that can help honor him. And he goes to the gym teacher. He finds out that, you know, his father and the gym teacher have been romantic with each other, and during this time the gym teacher also sort of throws away Clay in a way, because Clay is such a bad person that he gives up on him. He can't be with him anymore. But he finds something in Oral. Like, Oral is this moral center, and this episode really shows, like, what we've seen the entire time, that Oral is sort of like the one person in the town that, you know, can't be corrupted and is trying to actually do something good, but you still think that he's going to turn out bad. And the finale of the episode is Oral's father, Clay, begging the gym teacher to take him, and that he loves him, and it shows that he doesn't care about his family, and he's just abandoning them, but he won't take him in, and they all return home. And the narrator is talking about how, like, sometimes family is people that we just have to be around because we came out of each other. And it shows Oral grows up, and he says, but sometimes there's a miracle that happens, and Oral has a family of his own as an adult, and they're happy, and he has photos of his family, or his brother, on the wall, and they're successful, and he's lived this happy life. It is one of the most beautiful endings to a show I've ever seen. It's not heartwarming, but it felt deserved. And Before Oral is like a prequel. When he's 4, we learn about why he is religious, And the same thing is reiterated at the end of that episode with Clay's father, who we've seen in the show as well. Clay has a whole backstory. This would be a multi-part episode, or multi-part series if I talked about everything, but Clay and his father don't have a good relationship, to say the least, because of something that happened during Clay's childhood where he resulted in the death of his mother through a heart attack by mistake, and his father blamed him for it. And Clay wanted to do things for attention and became who he was because of this. But Oral's grandfather he loves Oral and tries to teach him like good things and what God is, and yeah. And Oral's dad tells him not to trust his grandfather, but Oral finally trusts, he still trusts him. He sort of berates him at the end of the episode in front of his father, but he winks and he's like, he still will love him and carry his teachings. It's a powerful moment, and Oral's grandfather says, this town can't corrupt you, and it's just, yeah. This episode of Shock and Schlock is probably very rambling. What I want to say of this is Moral Oral is a very special show. It did what BoJack Horseman, a lot of those types of series, did much earlier and much better, in my opinion. It is one of the most nuanced and enlightening takes on religion and its ability to corrupt people that I've ever seen in any medium. So yeah, give it a watch. It's on HBO Max. I believe the DVDs are out of print, but yeah, you can still stream it. It's not super hard to find, but yeah, it's a show that got canceled too early, and I highly recommend you seeking out. So yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, I've been your host, Herschel Gale, signing off for today. 0 thoughts, 0 editing, 0 brain cells, and 0 planning. I'll see you guys this week with another review. Thanks for watching.